Good morning. This is 1 in 36, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism, and I am absolutely thrilled to have as my guest today, Dani Bowman, star of Love on the Spectrum, creator, owner, I'm sure president, chief, all of those things of DaniMation, your company. And we're going to talk all about you and your background and what you're doing these days. Dani, thank you for being on the show and welcome.
Well, I thank you so much, Eliza. I'm so honored and grateful to be part of this wonderful podcast and to have like a wonderful conversation to talk a little bit about my company and a little bit about my life.
That's great. You have a very interesting life. And I've watched some YouTube videos. I've seen some of your animations. I know you're an educator. I know you're an artist. I know you connect a lot with young people on the autism spectrum, which is something that I value and appreciate a lot because I think that the more awareness and appreciation we can spread about people being people and individuals, the better off the world is. But speaking of interesting places and people, why don't we start by, can you tell us where you are right now? Because we're on a Zoom call and I'm in New York. Where are you?
I'm right now in Anchorage, Alaska, and this Wednesday I have a keynote. I have a keynote on Wednesday, followed by a breakout session talking about my personal life, growing up on the autism spectrum, and talking about my company's mission of educating, elevating, empower people on the autism spectrum. And on my breakout, talk a little bit more about my company's Learn As You Create formula method of teaching animation to students on the spectrum.
That's great. Congratulations. I know that you get invited to be keynote speaker at a lot of different events. You've traveled a lot, I'm sure, because of that. Do you have a favorite place that you've ever been to?
Well, one of my favorite places I've been to so far, if I would have to choose, I would definitely have to choose New York City, because New York City is definitely like a beautiful, it's very, despite of its rough edges, it has wonderful shopping areas at this wonderful busy city.
Yeah, a lot of shopping, something for everyone for sure in New York City. I agree with you there. And Alaska sounds really exciting too and interesting. And again, congratulations on the opportunity to spread your message and share about yourself there. Let's talk about DaniMation. I'm really intrigued. You started this company when you were very young. I read somewhere between the age of 11 and 14. Which one is correct?
I officially started my animation company when I was 14 years old. It dates back of the 8th grade in 2019. Despite harboring the idea earlier, there was a lack of support and recognition. But it all changed when I shared my ambition with my Uncle Patrick Idemiller, an entrepreneur himself. While he cautioned me about the challenges and hard work ahead, he didn't really dismiss the idea. Instead, he became my guiding force, assisting me in registering the company name and creating the website. And my dream transformed into a tangible reality. The journey has been indeed difficult, as he predicted, but the fulfillment and joy I derive from running DaniMation makes every challenge worthwhile. And remember, starting an animation company, when it comes to starting my animation company, I'm not alone. It's about teamwork.
I agree with that. I think it always takes a team, no matter how big or small. So I appreciate you saying that. Dani, you started the company when you were 14. Do you remember the first time you created something in animation, like the very first thing you made?
So that's a really great question. One of the first animation short films that I've created was under one of my champions' wing, under Joey Travolta of Inclusion Films. And one of the first animation short projects that I worked with Joey Travolta is Ia's Story, which is a short film about a little boy that saved his people, the tribes, the Oias. And that it's definitely a tribal themed, autism themed short film about how an autistic boy saved his people from this dangerous, aggressive tribe known as the Wee-Woos. And this theme that Ia's Story has is about how an autistic person can definitely make a huge difference and how it can definitely how it can help inspire, change lives.
That's really cool. And I'm glad you remember it in such great detail. That brings to mind another question I have, Dani. Oh, I know that you create a lot of animation to highlight the strengths and the importance of recognizing each individual person as an individual, and that a lot of your characters in your animated short stories and short films are on the autism spectrum. Do you purposely have your characters be very open and public about the fact that they're on the autism spectrum? Or do you try to present your characters more as just an individual person with an individual personality, but you don't label it? What do you think is more important, or what's your what do you do?
So in most of my animation projects, I never intended to label characters that are on the autism, but I do see a lot of similarities. The only character that in my short film called the Namazu, there is a character, the eponymous character named Dani. I myself, which I've created when I created this short film, The Namazu, this is the only character that is portrayed as autistic. I myself in the short film, and none of the other characters in my short films have the autism like label to it. It's never labeled as autistic. I have no intention to label people on the autism spectrum whatsoever in my short films, but however, I do give them a hint that they can be autism coded.
I think that's great. And I just asked that question because I know that there are individuals who some people choose to be very open about themselves being diagnosed with autism. And some people really choose to never disclose that to anyone publicly. And so I like that your work reflects both opportunities and both choices that people are making. Okay, you mentioned before that no one works alone and that you have a team. Can you tell us a little bit about who your team is?
Sure, definitely. So I have my uncle Patrick Idemiller, who is the CFO of DaniMation Entertainment, which you could say that he definitely works in the back office of DaniMation. Mm-hmm. Sandy Viella, who is my aunt, works as the chair, and she's also the head of marketing of DaniMation. So you could say that she is like the front office. Mm-hmm. And I have employees that teaches several animation instructors that teaches students on the autism spectrum, like Crystal Padron from Miami, Florida, who's teaching animation. Then I have Zoe Ramos, who was my previous animation student who became an animation instructor. Then I have Max Cadenhead, who I've met from the University of South Florida's Animation Gets Real camp. Now I'm an animation instructor. And there's plenty of other animation instructors I can mention. I can go on and on talking about more animations. So far, we have about a total of 7 animation instructors at our DaniMation workshops. Oh, I forgot to mention Jake Woodruff is another animation instructor at DaniMation.
That's great. That's a growing team. And then I think I read that in addition to the animation instructors and of course your aunt and uncle who are really instrumental in helping you with the business front end and back end, you also employ voice actors, correct? Who voice the characters in your animation.
That is definitely correct. There are some voice actors. I do have, however, the voice actors that I have at DaniMation, I mean, we don't really have employed voice actors at DaniMation. Most of the voice actors at DaniMation are contracted, which means we do hire voice actors that are outside of DaniMation. And sometimes we do get students, we do have students that do voice acting at DaniMation. So we do have a mix of DaniMation students that do voice acting, plus some contract or celebrity voice actors that do voice acting for some of our animation short films.
Very cool. Thank you. And Dani, that's a lot of people and you do a lot of work. Do you like being the boss?
I do like being the boss, but sometimes I just like to step back a little bit. But I don't like, even though the word boss is okay, but I like the word leader way more. A leader is definitely a much more proper term than boss.
Do you think leader is a friendlier term?
Yeah, it's a much of a friendlier term because when somebody's leading a company, the others will definitely automatically follow. Boss, on the other hand, I don't get me wrong with the word boss, but it could be a little bit more direct or authoritarian-esque. I'm not saying authoritarian-esque, but a little too direct.
I think I understand what you're saying. Thank you. That's a great answer to that question. Dani, we're going to take a short break because we're already halfway through our podcast. And when we come back, hopefully we can talk a little bit more about something I've been curious about, which is just your overall experience starring in the very popular show Love on the Spectrum. I think a lot of people know you from that, and I'd love to connect who you are as a person, a real person, your work in DaniMation, and then also this experience of being on TV. So we're going to take a short break. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and we'll be right back.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude,
How's the temperature?
it's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
if you could find a way,
To get inside.
each other's mind.
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes. If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
At Wheelchairs for Warriors, serving America's heroes is our mission. With your support, we serve veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty across the United States of America, providing them custom-fit, complex rehab mobility solutions to ensure they rejoin their lives at the highest level of independent mobility and function possible. Join the mission at wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking today with Dani Bowman, who is the founder and creator of DaniMation, her company, which is doing amazing things when it comes to animated short films and also educating young people with autism about animation creation and spreading awareness. Dani, you're in Anchorage, Alaska right now, preparing to be a keynote speaker at a conference, and you do that all over the country, which is incredible and really wonderful. You are also a star on a very popular show called Love on the Spectrum, and I was hoping that you could just tell us, I guess a really direct question is, have you enjoyed being on Love on the Spectrum?
I certainly do. And can I just tell you a little backstory about my experience from Love on the Spectrum?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so back in 2019, the Love on the Spectrum director Cian O'Clery reached out to me about a little show from Australia that aimed to help people on the spectrum find love. The moment I heard about it, I was really ecstatic, and of course, I jumped at the opportunity. Although I was a little nervous about the filming and going on blind dates, the crew made me feel comfortable. They encouraged me to be myself. They accommodated my schedule and they provided support throughout the process. And initially I thought the show would resonate primarily with the autism community, but it ultimately reached a much wider audience. And I never imagined that this Netflix show would become as popular as it has, cross over to the general public. And this show beautifully demonstrated that we on the autism spectrum can have the same wants, needs, and interests as anyone else.
Yes, I agree. I've watched the show. I have watched you in the show and also the rest of the cast. And I guess I represent that crossover audience because I found it so compelling and so honest and direct. And it really opened my eyes up to exactly what you just said, that everybody on the show is going to have the same wants and desires and interests as anyone else. So it's a very cool concept. I know we can't get into too many details, but I guess, is there anything else that you want to share about your experiences on Love on the Spectrum? Like any travel experiences or anything that you've gotten to do that show gave you the chance to do?
Well, it certainly has. That show definitely had me travel to different new restaurants and new places in near the Los Angeles area. Like, for example, like a couple of bars I haven't been to before. Or the restaurant like Yamashiro is another interesting restaurant location to go on dates. Travel doesn't have to be that big or doesn't have to be big of a travel. It could just be as like a small location. Look at Abby and David. They travel to their romantic area spot in Kenya, which is like so exciting for Love on the Spectrum. Something that that show hasn't done before, and that definitely it shows the possibilities that travel can be so wonderful. But I realize that I'm going off the sidelines for
It's okay. It's fine, Dani. I think you're giving us a little insight that's really interesting and helpful. So you talked about trying new restaurants and, because that's part of going on dates is you go and meet the person where, you mutually agree to go. Did you ever end up trying some new food that you never would have thought you would have tried because you were on the show and that's where the date happened?
Well, that's where the date happened. And in addition to that, I get to try out different types, it's not just the foods, but also a little bit of the different types of cocktails that they provide for drinks.
Yeah.
It seems to be a really incredible experience while I was interacting with the dates.
I think that's something that we don't always talk about in the dating world for anybody, is that you kind of also have to push yourself to be open to trying new things, not just meeting new people. So good for you. I also know that you somewhat recently, I think it was in the fall of 2024, you came and visited a town very close to Anderson. You came and visited Rhinebeck, New York, which is an autism supportive community. And I'm curious if you remember that trip and if there's anything that stood out to you that you really enjoyed while you were in Rhinebeck.
What I really love about Rhinebeck when we're doing our filming, and I love New York, is getting to see every door by door. I get to see the sticker that says an autism supportive community, which means not only people on the autism spectrum feel welcomed in this town, but also their people on the spectrum have received the opportunity to be employed at different little towns or little mom and pop shops everywhere, where it seems really it's an autism friendly town. Really nice, so beautiful there. And my favorite part about visiting Rhinebeck is visiting the farmers market.
Yes,
it's cute. The only thing I haven't visited in Rhinebeck I would love to visit is the Anderson Care Center. I would love to visit there.
You are welcome to visit anytime. Now you know a bunch of us here from scheduling this interview. So if you're ever back in New York in this area, we would love to have you come for a tour, and one of us would give you a personal tour of the whole program. So we love giving tours. Just to anyone listening, we're always happy to give a tour. Thank you, Dani, for that. I want to go back to your animation for a couple minutes. What is your favorite thing to teach maybe a group of young people who want to learn about animation?
So can you elaborate this again? Because do you mean like what type of subject do I want to that I like to teach, or is it more about one-on-ones or summer workshops?
What type of we can ask both, but this question will be, what type of animation do you like teaching the most?
I like teaching 2D digital animation because it's definitely so much easier for people on the autism spectrum to understand. Not only it's easy, it's definitely very fundamental because we people on the autism spectrum that are visual thinkers, we love to draw all the time. And drawing it is, we'd love the feel, we'd love the texture. It's art therapy for most of us before we go something technical like CGI animation or handcraft, or some people on the spectrum do stop motion animation. CGI animation is very complex. I like CGI too, but 2D animation is definitely my preference. And when it comes to teaching animation, whether it's 2D whether it's a summer workshop or one-on-one sessions, I like both of them. While the one-on-one sessions are just good when you get to interact and train a student to build up their skills, the summer workshops are all about the experience. Those are the two things I really love about the one-on-one session. Those are the things that I love about the one-on-one session and the summer workshops.
So you like interacting with your students either one-on-one or in like a small group?
That is correct.
That makes sense to me. I also really liked your description of the 2D animation as opposed to CGI, because CGI gets a lot of media attention about CGI because it's so technological and it's advanced and it's really kind of the latest thing. But your description of why you like 2D makes sense to me as a person. And I am not an artist, Dani, not at all. I do not draw well. I never have. But the idea of connecting to the texture of what you're creating, I would think that would be a lot of fun to learn from you and to be in a small group with you. Is there a certain age of student that you teach, or would it be open to anyone interested in taking a class with you?
Our recommended age limit is definitely the ages 10 or 22. However, we do several exceptions. We do take students that are younger than 10 who are definitely talented or prodigies. If a student is a prodigy, then we definitely welcome them to DaniMation. We also do welcome several older folks. Recently, we do have a one-on-one student who is an older lady who is a really great artist, but also would love to translate her traditional art and traditional animation into the digital realm. We are very flexible when it comes to age.
That's great to know. And how do people find out about your summer sessions and your classes? Is there a website that they go to for more information?
For more information, people can sign up for our free introductory animation classes for Saturdays when available. They can sign up to DaniAcademy.com/free, and we teach Saturdays, limited Saturdays, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific.
Thank you. That's great information. And just to help out with that, when we post this interview, we will include the links to your to the place where you can sign up for more classes and information in the link too, so that everybody who wants to can find you easily. I also would like to say that if you go to YouTube and you look up Dani Bowman, DaniBowman, you'll find several of your short films and videos, and it's really very accessible and easy to see. And then, of course, continue to watch Love on the Spectrum on Netflix and follow Dani in all of your travels and your adventures and your speaking engagements and your work. And I just also would like to, in closing, thank you, Dani, for what you do and your team does to continue to spread autism awareness and acceptance and appreciation throughout the world. I think you're making a very big impact. So thank you.
No problem, anytime. And thank you so much for having me be part of this podcast.
It's my pleasure. It's been great to meet you. I hope we meet again in the future. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.